Welcome to Tai Chi Live. Today we're going to talk about the structure of the form. And while that might not sound very interesting, it will actually help you do the form. And this idea of talking about the structure of the form came from a few questions that came from one of my certification students, came from one of my other students that watch Tai Chi Live all the time. So your questions do matter. So if you have questions, be sure and let me know what you would like for me to cover. What do you want me to answer for you? So now the structure of the form, you can see that we've done some painter's tape on the floor. And the reason we've done this is the 24 short form is a linear form. It goes east to west. So wherever you're practicing, the way you face when you start the form, that's north. Then to your right is east, to your left is west, and obviously to your back is south. So whether that's your true north, whether that actually is north, doesn't matter. Wherever you're practicing, this is how you orient yourself. This is north, east, west, south. And the form travels on these railroad tracks. So one of the things that you can do for a practice for yourself in wherever you practice is to put painter's tape down on the floor, or if you have rope or something but be careful with rope that you're not going to step on it and roll your ankle. It's helpful to have a visual guide like this. So your stances matter in the structure of the form. And as we talk about this kind of mechanical idea of the structure, don't think that we're throwing away the idea of the principles. The principles actually come into play to help you keep the structure of the form the way it was originally intended. And one of the ways that it does that is, let's say you're doing your part the wild horse's mane. As you're stepping with your part the wild horse's mane, thinking about your substantial and insubstantial, thinking about being rooted and grounded, and lowering your center of gravity makes a difference how long and how wide your stances are. Remember, we want to be stable. We want those stances to be fairly wide. If maybe you have knee issues, maybe you have hip issues, that's okay. If you can't lower your center of gravity very far, your steps are not going to be as long. You're not going to travel as far down those railroad tracks as far as someone that maybe they don't have knee issues and they can very much lower their center of gravity. And look how much longer the length of my stride can be because I've lowered that center of gravity. I can really travel down these railroad tracks. The idea of knowing where your stances are, how long your stances are, how flexible you are, will help you get back to where you started. And that's one of the ideas of the structure of the form. Where you start, you should be able to get back to where you've started. And when I say get back to where you've started, I don't mean a little tiny spot. It's a general area. Be nice to yourself. Don't try to be so precise that if you're this far off, that's really okay. If you're this far off, there's something going on and we can fix that, okay? Let's do the form and I'll talk through some of the ideas of how to think through the structure. And the first thing that I'm going to talk about is that north, south, west, east. How you're orienting your body is actually very important. So I'm going to start down here, and like I said, you're going to start facing north. Take a nice deep breath in, breathe it out, sinking down, and open. Preparation. Now, as you hold that ball, you're still facing north, but now you're going to start traveling due west. You're going to turn and make sure that stance is wide enough with that part the wild horse's mane. Then part the wild horse's mane. And one more, part the wild horse's mane. Now, as I step for white crane spreads its wings, I'm actually right in the center of those railroad tracks. Now, as I go into my brush knee, just like with my part the wild horse's mane, my left foot is more towards the south side of those railroad tracks. It doesn't have to be right on it. Now, as I step with my brush knee, my right leg is more towards the north side of those railroad tracks. One more brush knee, and then I'm stepping to the center again for that play the guitar. Now, as I step backwards with my repulse the monkey, I'm staying pretty much down the center of those railroad tracks. Now, right here, as you turn north again to come into your ward off, you should be almost back to your starting place. You should be fairly close to where you started. We'll discuss why you may not be, but let's just move on with the form for now. Holding that ball, you're going to step out. Remember, this left foot now goes towards the south side of that railroad track. Oops, I did part the wild horse's mane. Ward off, grasp the bird's tail, roll back, rotate and press, pushing chi. Now notice, even though I go on the other side of my body, my stance really hasn't changed that much, except that I'm a little bit closer to that south side of the railroad tracks. Now, as I come into that single whip, I may even be just a little bit outside of those railroad tracks. That's okay, don't worry. Now I come into my wave hands like clouds. Come into a single whip. High pat on horse. Now this is where you're going to get back into your railroad tracks. When you kick, smash, and box the ears, even though I'm facing west with my high pat on horse, that kick, smash, and box the ears is going to go a little bit northwest. I'm going to step down towards that northwest. Then as I turn, my left kick is actually to that southeast corner. Then I can be straight down my railroad tracks with my snake creeps, pheasant stands, snake creeps, pheasant stands. As I'm facing east here to step into my Fair Lady Works the Shuttle, my right leg now is towards that south side. Then my left leg steps towards that north side. Pick the needle up from the C bottom is actually towards this northeast corner. You're just orienting your body just a little bit diagonal. But that doesn't mean that you're not going to go straight down those railroad tracks again. Deflect, intercept and punch, pushing chi, Return the tiger to the mountain. And close. Remember, in the past, we've talked about how you close. You always close left to right at the end. After you've done your return the tiger to the mountain, you slide that right leg in just a little bit, and you always close left to right. And the reason for that is you're closing the circle. You started the form like this, taking a nice deep breath in, and that left leg opened. So that means at the end of the form, the left leg, to complete that circle, needs to come in. So that's why that's part of that structure as well. Understanding the way you're facing will help you to keep going on these railroad tracks and to get you back to your originating spot. The length of your stances also matters quite a bit. When we start the form, we start with part the wild horse's mane, right? And it's so much easier to take long steps. It feels so much more balanced as you're going forward, right? It's very simple. You're facing forward. You feel balanced. You know where you're going. It's very easy to take long steps. But now all of a sudden you have to go backwards. And this is where some people have a discrepancy in their stances. Because now they step like this for their repulse the monkey. Because going backwards is not quite so simple, and they might not be quite as stable. So as I took those short steps for that repulse the monkey, you can see now I'm quite a ways off from where I started. I'm a good stance away. And that's because I took longer steps going forward than I did going backwards. Again, we go back to our principles. What allows you to take longer steps as you do your repulse the monkey? Understanding your substantial and insubstantial, keeping those columns intact, knowing that you can step back and be completely balanced. So practicing your repulse the monkey, being able to step back like that, applying those underlying principles is very important so that you can get back to your originating spot. The other place that is very similar that people don't realize what's happening is after you've done your kick, smash, and box the ears, as you turn and you kick left, perhaps your snake creeps, pheasant stands is not quite as long or as deep. You're not as flexible. That's okay, but you just have to understand your body in terms of the structure of the form. If I'm short with my snake creeps, which again, that's fine if that's your body, but now I have too far to travel to get back to my starting point. One of the things, remember, as you've done your ward off, you're almost in your original spot. And you come to that single whip, the next move is your wave hands like clouds. Again, perhaps it's easier to take a longer step with your wave hands like clouds. And then again with your single whip, perhaps it's easier to be a longer stance. Your high pat on horse, longer stance. Perhaps You're not thinking about being rooted and grounded, and you're falling forward with your kick, smash, and box the ears, instead of lowering that center of gravity, moving from the Dantian, keeping that stance within your body. Those are all things you have to consider when you go back this direction. Knowing that Tai Chi obviously is very modifiable for every body. I'm not talking about perfection. This is just about the overall structure of the form. I had a student last night, in fact, that she has really bad hip issues. And she has really long legs as well. And she was asking me, Dianne, I can't go low in my snake creeps. That hurts too much. And I told her, I said, that's fine. You just need to figure out how your body can adjust to help you within these railroad tracks to get back to your original spot. I told her, perhaps as you're coming forward at the very beginning, utilize this herringbone action more, where you're stepping diagonally, but still going forward. You're still going west, but you're not going to travel as far if you really utilize that twist step and use that herringbone action. So if I've just done my last part, the wild horse's mane, again, something you can think about is as you step up for your white crane spreads its wings, don't step forward. Don't even step even. As you step up, maybe you just step slightly behind so that you're not traveling as far that direction. Then you don't have to travel as far back. Because traveling this east direction is really the issue, right? With our repulse the monkey and with our snake creeps. So traveling this east direction is really one of the issues of the structure of the form. So let's do the form again. And if you have the opportunity to maybe mark a spot, let's see if you can get back to your original position. So standing nice and tall, take a good deep breath in, breathe it out, sink down, and open. Preparation. Remember, you're turning west, stepping that left foot towards the south side of those railroad tracks. Part the wild horse's mane. Part the wild horse's mane. White crane spreads its wings. You're kind of in the center of your railroad tracks. Brush knee left. Still thinking about your herringbone, thinking about your twist step. Brush knee left. Stepping up, play the guitar. Repulse the monkey. Think about your substantial and insubstantial. Keeping those columns intact. And again, you should be kind of back to your original spot. Ward off. Grasp the bird's tail. Roll back. Rotate and press. Pushing chi. Bringing the weight over to the right. Bringing it back to the left, stepping out. Ward off. Grasp the bird's tail. Roll back, Rotate and press. Pushing chi. Bringing the weight over to the left, back to the right, forming a bird's beak, and single whip. Wave hands like clouds. Single whip. High pat on horse. Kick smash and box the ears. Remember, it's on this kind of northwest diagonal. Then as you're turning, you're going to kick to that southeast diagonal. And then with your snake creeps, you're coming back down the center. Holding that ball to the left, step out. Fair Lady works the shuttle. Utilize that twist step. Fair Lady works the shuttle. Then pick the needle up from the C bottom. Is it this northeast direction? But as you turn into your deflect, intercept, and punch, you're going to come straight down the middle of your railroad tracks again. Pushing chi. Return the tiger to the mountain. And close. So as you practice your railroad tracks, practice the structure of the form, know that, again, it's not for perfection. We do Tai Chi to get the benefits of Tai Chi. And one of those benefits is relaxation. And if you think about the levels of learning in Tai Chi, first you regulate the body. And that's things like what we're talking about today. Regulating the body is understanding the movements, understanding how to keep your columns intact, how to rotate on your central column, how to move from the dantian. This structure of the form is really all about regulating the body. Once you have this regulation to a place where it's a phrase that Dr. Yang Ming talks about. He says, the goal of regulation is no regulation. Meaning the goal is you no longer have to think about these things. They come naturally as you do your form, which helps you relax enough so now you can layer on that next layer, which is regulating the breathing, which again will deepen that relaxation response as you can get your breathing to match the motions in your Tai Chi. So all these things are really moving towards giving you the benefit of relaxation.